What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Join us now as Wrestlelamia analyzes the 13th July edition of the Red Brand and looks at the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know, including Sonny's latest arrest, the WWE's concern about an infected talent, who rallied against Vince backstage, a Bianca Belair update, and much more. As always, we won't waste your time recapping the matches, but we will take a look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly from last night's show. As always, we start off with the good, as number 1, the Queen is back. No, we're not talking about Charlotte Flair, but Shayna Baszler, the Queen of Spades, who has been absent from Raw for weeks, with rumours that her push was completely gone, as Vince soured on her. Baszler's return and announcement that she was going to remind the weak-minded women's champion she hasn't faded away was a good way to bring her back. Baszler beating down Akira Tozawa's ninjas was silly, but Baszler fans likely were willing to take it just to see her back. Now comes the million-dollar question. What will the WWE do with her now? Are they now ready to put the title on her? Number 2. MVP indeed. Montalvo-Vontavious Porter has quickly lived up to the traditional meaning for MVP, most valuable player on Raw. His return at the Royal Rumble seemed like one of those feel-good one-night-only returns, but the WWE hit a grand slam when it decided to bring him back as a wrestler and manager. While his best wrestling days are behind him, he's still talented enough to make opponents look good. More importantly, his skills on the stick and a heavy dose of charisma make him ideal as a manager. He's helped further a number of storylines, including the rehabilitation of Bobby Lashley's career and who might join his faction, The Hurt Business. Number 3, must-see TV. They gave fans a big reason to tune into next week's Raw by announcing the Big Show will face Randy Orton in an unsanctioned match. That match could have easily been a featured bout at Extreme Rules, but the WWE wisely saved it for Raw, likely hoping to build up the post-pay-per-view audience further. Number 4, more McIntyre magic. Last night's Raw was more McIntyre magic as Drew furthered his storyline with Dolph Ziggler and showed why he brings so much to the table. Drew cut another great promo calling out Dolph for using people and reminding Ziggler and the fans of his past, telling Ziggler he was gonna see the psychopath. Conventional wisdom has it that the WWE has missed out on an opportunity to make Drew McIntyre into a megastar due to its inability to put in front of fans and get over. Whilst there's no denying that, there's also no denying that McIntyre hasn't put in anything but 110% effort, cutting awesome promos and putting on excellent matches, regardless of an empty arena. Let's hope the WWE continues Drew's push when the fans do return to the arenas. Number 5, more quality wrestling. Yesterday's night of grudge matches was also a night of fantastic wrestling from start to finish. While fans might not have agreed with the outcomes of the matches, such as the Viking Raiders losing to Garza and Andrade yet again, there's no arguing that the matches were entertaining and good showcases for everyone involved. The matches for the most part also furthered storylines and built up interest in this week's pay-per-view, which should be any promotion's priority. Number 6, The Rick and Randy Show. A few fans would deny that Randy Orton hasn't been as over as he is right now, whether it's the return of his legend killer character or stepping up his promos and in-ring work. However, somehow, the WWE has managed to squeeze even more out of the character thanks to the presence of Nature Boy Ric Flair. Flair is such a great talker that he would make a fantastic manager, but traditionally, managers have been saved for someone who is limited on the stick. Not so with Orton, who can cut killer promos on his own. Nevertheless, Flair has added another dimension to Orton's character, as it's been established Flair's counsel is making Orton even more dangerous. With Flair being arguably the greatest legend of all time, there's also the question of when Orton will turn his attention to the Nature Boy and send him packing. In fact, Brian Alvarez recently commented on the Wrestling Observer Live that they're making it abundantly clear that at some point, Randy is killing Ric Flair. Number 7, a surprise return. Wrestling fans love well-orchestrated surprises, and last night featured a surprise return with Ruby Riott getting unlikely help from Bianca Belair. The WWE has been teasing a Riott Squad reunion for the last few weeks, so it's doubtful many fans expected to see Belair, who jumped from NXT to Raw after WrestleMania 36 only to fade away, team up with Riott against the Iconics. This was a good way to bring Belair back and get the fans wondering whether Riott will even team up with Liv Morgan. Number 8, the many loves of Charlie Caruso. As we discussed previously, Charlie Caruso has grown into the WWE's best backstage interviewer, as she knows how to subtly enhance interviews with facial gestures and well-timed follow-up questions. The WWE has had fun with Caruso's character over the past several weeks, with the lethal Lothario Angel Garza flirting with Caruso and Caruso seeming to be falling for him. much to the chagrin of Garza's manager Zelina Vega. This week, the WWE changed things up when the Viking Raiders Eric seemed to catch Caruso's eye, and he even snatched a rose from Garza meant for Caruso, wowing Charlie even further. As minor as this segment may have seemed, it helped build the Raiders vs Garza and Andrade match and tease a storyline love triangle between Garza, Caruso, and Eric. Heh, if it worked for Otis on SmackDown, Vince may be hoping to capture lightning twice with Eric. But that was the good of Raw. What about the bad? As number 1, Ricochet's latest crash. Can you believe that Ricochet, a popular and talented wrestler whose recent WWE Network specials drew top ratings for the network, has transformed into not only a jobber to the stars, but a bad comedy act? His performance last night saw him in silly segments with R-Truth and Akira Tozawa's Ninjas, followed by a squash loss to Bobby Lashley that basically had Ricochet running for his life for part of the match. Way to go and bury him even further, WWE. Now, there was no downright ugly of last night's show. In fact, it is a massive change from SmackDown. The WWE really put things into overdrive for this go-home episode of Raw, advancing storylines, putting on entertaining matches, and giving fans plenty of reasons to stay tuned. It's continuing its Crash television format with interviews, matches, and angles showcasing a large number of talents from mid-card acts to main eventers. While some fans may have not enjoyed the number of women's matches, they all delivered in the ring. Hopefully this week, SmackDown will follow Raw's example and give fans something better than SmackDown karaoke. Oof, still having nightmares over that one. But that was the good, the bad, and the downright ugly of Raw. Let's now move on to the news. Now our first story looks at Sunny being arrested again. Bad news for fans of Sunny, aka Tamara Sitch, who found herself arrested yet again. Sunny, who was released from incarceration on 25th February 2020, is behind bars again, with PW Insider and WrestleTalk reporting on this. According to WrestleTalk's Brian Joyce, Sitch was arrested on the following charges: eluding police officer, contempt/violate domestic violence restraining order, operating motor vehicle during second license suspension. Sitch was on parole after being released from prison earlier this year. It's not currently known whether or not this arrest will affect her parole. This is the 15th time she's been arrested since 2011. Sunny wasted no time after her release, opening an OnlyFans account to make thousands of dollars every month, appealing to fans who wanted to see intimate photos of her. Hey, whatever gets you hard. Sunny quickly became a social media pariah after her repeated racist remarks. We'll let you know of any updates regarding her arrest. Next up, a SummerSlam stipulation has been scrapped. Looks like the WWE was contemplating one bizarre bout for this year's SummerSlam. According to Ringside News' Steve Carrier, how would you feel about Mandy Rose vs Sonya Deville in a hair match at WWE SummerSlam? We have learned that was actually on the table and in discussions. Not happening though. That brings us to the more important questions: who would have lost their hair? It's not too often that WWE fans see a hair versus hair match anymore, let alone ones involving female superstars. In fact, we'll have a video on that soon. The WWE may have looked at this as a lose-lose proposition for both women and decided to pass. Next up, Bianca Belair's status on Raw. Is Bianca Belair back on Raw for good after her recent absence? Well, not according to Ringside News, who tweeted, "It was great to have Bianca Belair back on Raw, but we've been told it's not a long-term thing. She's a placeholder until Liv Morgan can return. It would be nice if WWE could figure out how to use her." Belair is a fantastic talent who has much to give on Raw or SmackDown, but she may have found herself lost in the shuffle, given the WWE's focus on certain top performers such as Asuka, Banks, and Bayley. Next up, the WWE is worried about talent affected by the virus. WWE is currently dealing with a coronavirus outbreak. The details of how many people are infected still remains unknown, but according to Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp, the WWE is concerned about producer Jamie Noble, who tested positive for the virus. He reported there was some concern among members of the roster after Jamie Noble noted that he'd tested positive, as Noble is very hands-on in his production. He's one of the people that's physically repositioning people. There's no heat on him, as he's widely regarded one of the best producers in the company. It was more of a wish we knew type of situation. It's not a personality trait of his that raised the concern, as many producers have to reposition people in the same manner for contract signings, angles, and the like. Naturally, the real concern should be that the WWE relied on poor precautionary measures for the virus, the reason why people were infected. And finally, who rallied against Vince backstage to make the mask rule? The WWE has finally implemented a rule that people at the Performance Center must wear a mask in order to protect themselves and others from the virus. As we reported in past videos, this came about after a WWE superstar talked to Vince McMahon about the problem, with Vinnie Mac promising to fine people $500 if they fail to wear a mask, and $1,000 for a second offense. However, who was the wrestler who went to Vince? Well, according to TalkSport's Alex McCarthy, Kevin Owens is said to have been the man that met with Vince McMahon and convinced the WWE boss to implement the new mask rules at tapings. He said he was going home, and McMahon asked what it would take for him to stay, and here we are, a very good human being. With any luck, Vince will also implement better safety precautions to protect wrestlers and staff from the virus. But there you have it guys, the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know, as well as the good, the bad and the downright ugly of Raw. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.